In today's FSI Spotlight, I speak with Courtney Kelly-Peters. Courtney is VP of Partnerships at FreedomPay, and she was a 2020 top woman leader in financial technology. Her towering strength is in the payments space. She gave us a Payments 101, which can be super helpful if you're new in the financial services arena. We also unpacked Gen Z and how they're impacting some of the trends that are unfolding in the payment space and the importance of the omni-channel customer experience. So we covered a lot of grounds. I really enjoyed my conversation with Courtney, and I think you will as well. So let's go ahead and jump in. All right, Courtney, thank you so much for joining me here today. So you were recently recognized by the Financial Technology Report as one of their top 25 women leaders in financial technology in 2020. So congratulations, first of all.
Thank
you. Yeah, and so how did this recognition come about, and what recommendations might you have for other women in this space?
So honestly, the Financial Technology Report, and so thankful for them for selecting me, reached out to FreedomPay and said, hey, Courtney's been nominated. If you would be so kind as to kind of provide some, internal insight as to why you think that she's been a leader in fintech. Can you please provide that back? And we just kind of went through the motions of sending that back. I honestly have no idea what they said, but somehow I was selected, and I feel so honored to be, mentioned with so many inspiring women. And it really goes to show, that the possibilities are endless for women in fintech and technology in general. I know that, women don't make up the largest majority on both sides, the business, operations, development. We don't make up the majority, but our impact is definitely there. So what I would say, to additional aspiring women in this space is just to keep pushing through and making your voice heard. I think that over the past year or so, I've kind of grown from a leadership perspective and had a great mentor in my current manager and things like that have kind of pushed me to think outside the box and design the way that I want things to be done. FreedomPay has a pretty small, nimble team. And if you just speak up and speak your mind and say, this is what needs to be done, this is how I think it can be executed, there's tons of room for growth and creating your own journey. So I really encourage women out there that are, looking to advance their careers to kind of just follow your heart and what you think is best for you and for the company, and doors will definitely open up for you.
That's wonderful. So you mentioned FreedomPay. Tell us a little bit about who FreedomPay is and what you guys do. Tell us about your day-to-day and your role in business development.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So FreedomPay is a payment gateway, essentially at the core. We kind of position ourselves as the next generation of commerce platforms, and we kind of aim to provide a real connectivity between tons of different technologies. Like I had alluded to before, we're a smaller team, but I would say 80% of that is development. We're very focused on delivering exceptional services, products, technology to our partners and our merchants, as well as, leading innovation charges as it goes, throughout the different pieces of fintech. And, we provide that gateway and that connection services to a number of different pieces. So it's the omnichannel approach of, you want the best and greatest kiosk, you want to be able to order online, but you also want to connect into Canada, the US, European Union, UK, Australia, but you don't kind of know how to connect them all. And FreedomPay kind of sits at the middle of that ecosystem to provide connectivity and reach across, a ton of different platforms. And our merchants kind of look to us to provide that for them. So they're able to get a best in breed technology and whatever they want to kind of experience and still know that they'll be connected by a centralized force, which allows them to do things like evaluate business intelligence, and it allows them to see who their consumers are and what they're looking to do across, their different types of journeys.
That's great. Maybe we could do a payments 101 for some of our newer members at FSI. You mentioned payment gateway, you mentioned merchants. In our pre-call, you mentioned integration partners. So maybe lay out the landscape of the payments ecosystem. Talk about the different types of players and how they all work together to create a seamless, frictionless customer experience.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. And I know it is a very complex type of ecosystem, right? You never know who's doing which pieces. Maybe they do a small piece, maybe they do the full picture. There's tons of different ways to kind of approach it, but I would say from start to finish, there's a number of different aspects to consider. Are first, where is the order and total being generated? So that can be, I'm ordering items at a restaurant, I'm checking in at a hotel, I'm simply just typing in the full total amount, or, I'm just walking up to the taco truck on the street to say, oh, I want a couple tacos. Any way you kind of think about it, there needs to be a total sum of the money that's being spent. So that's kind of where we start. We grab the total of the amount that's being spent, and then we need to send it out to confirm, funds. So taco truck, easy peasy, here's the cash, move on. But it gets much more complex when there's different parts of the ecosystem. So, you think about a restaurant, for example, we have to be able to confirm those funds and send them out to the processor. So I go ahead and I hit a tender key on the point of sale system that initiates a transaction within there. So whether you're inputting your chip card, whether you're swiping, you're tapping your phone, you're tapping your contactless card, you're using QR code payments, there's a ton of different types of things that you're seeing out there, from, the original type of transactions, which was just to swipe your credit card. And now there's, tons of emerging tech that the different generations that are coming up and becoming the big spenders are, really looking for, with regards to, the different types of tech that they expect to be able to pay with. So we've got to be able to enable those technologies. So as we go ahead and go through the journey, there's the payment gateway piece, which collects that information. And in the realm of payment data security, you're going to want to make sure that that's an encrypted payload to send it out, so that breaches and targeted attacks are not part of your everyday. And that, again, holds true from the big top 10 all the way down to mom and pop shops. And then at that point, the payment data goes out through the gateway securely, and then it can go out to a number of different processors. And the processors are the teams that are actually moving the funds. So they're able to then reach out to the bank and say, hey, bank, is Courtney Kelly, does she have the funds available to pay for this meal? And then they're able to leverage the different card brands, Visa, MasterCard, Discover, Amex, et cetera. They are also able to confirm this, comes back through the processor to the payment gateway as a yes or no response, essentially. So all of those are happening in real time. And if you've gone ahead and you've been able to interact with this payment device, you'll see that you insert the chip, it's like that, yes or no, and then you get to move on. So there's a ton of things that are happening behind the scenes, which are making our lives as consumers much easier from a technology perspective, and being able to pay how you want, pay securely, don't have to worry about your information being stolen or anything like that, and then being able to move on with your day, because putting payments in the background of your experience, what we've seen is much more important. It's like the Uber effect, the Amazon Go, all of those are, what people see as a seamless checkout experience.
So you mentioned Gen Z. Do me a favor, tell me a little bit about how you see Gen Z and millennials. How similar are they? How different are they? And how are they really impacting the pressure on the ecosystem to adopt the latest and greatest, most frictionless and most amazing technology out there?
across the different generations, there's always going to be, adaptation to change and the need for change, and, kind of working with them to ensure that those consumers are able to spend, how they'd want to. So I would say, myself as a millennial as well is like very in tune with the way that technology is working. And we've gotten into we've grown up with cell phones, we grew up with computers, we know how this technology works and we're comfortable with it. But as things progress and there's more and more things like social networks and things that are really bringing together different connections, we're kind of seeing a change in trends to see how different advertisers, especially, are targeting their, specific audiences. So while payments, I think, initially started as a transactional business, like, all right, cool, I want to buy this, let me get on out of here. But now, because there's more and more data and it's linked to different social networks, it's linked to feedback mechanisms, it's linked to, just talking with different people, word of mouth, all of that is just continual advertising is, it's a journey. It's more horizontal than it is vertical, how it was originally. So you're kind of seeing the full experience of, I see things I want to buy. Where do I see them? I see them on Instagram. I see them on Facebook. I see them on LinkedIn, things that I'm engaging with from a tech perspective consistently. And that's just very simply social media, but then adding in different targeted offers and incentives through email or text or things like that to kind of draw additional sales is where I think that we're going to see a big shift in how we're engaging our customers. I think Venmo is an interesting thought around that. I'm sure that you've seen that they're kind of introducing QR code-based payments. We've seen this already with Alipay and WeChat Pay, and it's more of a social type of interaction where you go ahead and you bring up the QR code on your phone. You can scan it for payment versus inserting your card or tapping your phone. And then it actually can provide a social element where, I check in and I pay for a burrito at Chipotle. That is automatically tagged as Chipotle on Venmo. And my friends can go ahead and like, hey, Courtney, I saw you got Chipotle. Why didn't you invite me? And just kind of have that back and forth. And that's what, further generations are craving, because there's more of a digital interaction there than there is personal, especially right now with kind of how we're all, at home on our couches with multiple lights around us, like trying to engage because we're not able to meet in real life. So it's just going to keep growing and growing, and being able to have a technology leader in payments and be able to easily bring these things on. So whether it's a banking app or Venmo app or, just a traditional checkout at Chipotle or another, quick service, you've got to be able to provide that type of experience for your consumers.
I'm familiar with the omni-channel customer journey. I typically think of it in banking or lending, where you might start an onboarding, or you might start a particular process on an iPad or an iPhone, and then you may or may not go to a bank, but there's another channel where theoretically you could pick up on a step, a few steps into the full process. And the challenge there is on the financial institution to remember who you are and what it is that you're driving towards and what step you're on, et cetera. Then there's the term omnichannel, just around the approach to payments. Is it all along the same lines of thought?
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, it's definitely understanding who the person is. So I think it kind of also ties in nicely with the last question is, like, what are the trends that we're seeing? If you can't recognize the customer in store and above store, so like an online transaction, you're kind of seeing a fragmented type of experience, because you don't know, did my email engage that person to go to a store? Did it engage them to buy items online? Where is that marketing influence leading consumers, and how do we actually understand their buying trends and things like that? So that's kind of where the omni-channel approach, I think, comes in with regards to, commerce connectivity. So, being able to take, a casino for an example, there's tons of different type of interaction points there. You've got checking in. Maybe I checked in at a kiosk. I never actually spoke with somebody. And then I went and I got drinks at the bar before my reservation. And then I went to buy tickets to a concert. And there's just so much of an ecosystem in there, but there's a consistent need for different types of technology to enable these experiences. And if they're not all tied together with Omnichannel, you're kind of missing the boat when it comes to data. So not having that data and not being able to know who the consumer is puts you kind of at a disadvantage, in my opinion, to say, did my marketing money actually push this guest to go and buy tickets to the show, or were they coming because they saw a buy one, get one on meals at a specific restaurant? So understanding those trends and linking the data is really important. And I think that from a payments perspective and payment gateway and being able to correlate that all together will definitely help to drive, the benefits around that approach.
So there's a number of trends happening now in the payment space. I'd like to touch on a few of them here. So let's talk about contactless. Obviously, the pandemic has really driven or accelerated contactless and the implementation of virtual kiosks. In your role at FreedomPay, what activity have you seen in that space? And was this something that we knew was coming? And just give us a little bit of insight there from your perspective.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So from a virtual kiosk perspective, I think I saw this coming about a year ago with a few, big players in there starting to implement this technology. I think we both know that QR codes didn't have a great push a few years ago. It was tough. You had to download a separate app. You had to figure out how to use it versus this push to enabling QR code payments to enable virtual kiosks. It's been kind of pushed on us more recently because of making things contactless. So being able to kind of put that full experience of a regular kiosk into your own hands, first, allows the merchant to not have to put up the CapEx related to buying, a $5,000 kiosk, but at the same time restores consumer confidence in being able to check out how you'd want to check out. So, if I don't feel comfortable touching a kiosk, or if I don't want to interact with a server or, things like that, I'm able to quickly scan a QR code, pay for my items, order my items, view a menu. It's funny, one of our partners was actually in Philly a few weeks ago who works with us on this type of technology. And we went to a local, just like Italian restaurant, and we were laughing. So like, oh, QR codes, we know how that works. But it's just like so funny because people think that all these new techs are, just for the big guys. But I think it's important to realize that it's for small guys, it's for big guys, it's for, Gen Z, it's for every type of age group out there. Just know, you have a QR code, scan it, you can be on your way. And the more and more that I work within my role at FreedomPay, so like kind of tying back to your original question, was in my role, I work mostly with our innovative technology partners. So while I love payments and I think it's really exciting and the technology behind it is super cool, I think it's great to learn, how our partners and especially our merchants who kind of drive a lot of this technology innovation, they go ahead and they kind of come on our platform and we get to learn about them. So whether it's, using AI for self-checkout or smart coolers or kiosks, virtual kiosks for check-in, we have a new partner that actually can check you in for your hotel reservation and shoot out a key right there. You never have to interact with people. So seeing all of these types of technologies and being able to just introduce them, across the board, I think is pretty cool.
That's great. We don't mind people, but we want to deal with people when we want to deal with people, and we don't always want to, right?
I hear that.
So on that note, let's talk about embedded payments. I think most of us can relate with the Uber experience, which really drove home how frictionless that experience is. So how are you seeing embedded payments implemented, and are you finding it implemented maybe in places that you wouldn't have expected?
Sure. Yeah. So I've talked a lot about embedded payments because it actually goes a lot along the realm of how frictionless can I make this entire consumer experience? So that more and more these innovative type of technology companies that we've been working with are kind of following the lead of an Uber or an Amazon Go and kind of seeing, this is the type of technology that's of the future. So more and more we're seeing, smart types of checkouts and smart types of check-ins, and all of the payments are kind of put in the background. So, while maybe, you're getting your Uber and you're just pressing like, okay, go, you have a card on file. They know exactly who you are. They know who's picking you up, and you don't even know that you paid for that for it. I feel like I could go through my Uber list and just be like, I can't believe I spent this much money on Uber. Like, I have no idea, because it doesn't even happen. I mean, the same goes for the Amazon Go type of concepts. One of our smart cooler companies that we're working with does a similar type of experience where once you put a card on file, you scan your QR code to open up the cooler. You never have to tell anybody like what you grabbed. It knows what you grabbed. You close the cooler, it charges you. It's just, you never have to actually think about what you're buying. And it's becoming a trend that we all are becoming accustomed to, because putting the customer experience has to go first. And the fact that they're paying for it kind of has to go second, because it just improves their overall journey throughout the entire process.
What about buy now, pay later? Are you seeing that trend?
Oh, definitely. I mean, buy now, pay later is going to be huge. And I think that it's just going to grow and grow. For retail purchases, upfront for a big purchase, like my Peloton, for example, all the gyms shut down in Philly. We needed a way to provide any type of exercise here since we couldn't really leave our homes. We were like, all right, let's grab a Peloton, $60 a month. Over the course of a few years, I eventually own it. It's kind of just a recurring payment, and it's, just put in the back of my mind, I have this item. I kind of forget that I'm paying for it, similar to like our previous conversation. So being able to provide that experience across numbers of different commerce channels, I think will definitely be growing. So while, there's the option for big ticket items and, it started with buying a home, right? So you've got your mortgage and you're paying monthly towards it. And then you have your car and you're paying monthly towards it. Now being able to kind of recreate that experience, and while it might not be, a huge ticket item, is beneficial for people that want to actually be enabled to buy items. So it might not be $1,000, but $100 over the course of 4 months is more than $0 for the merchant. So while they might be funded up front, while they might get paid every couple of months, they're still making that sale. So it's enabling a whole different set of consumers to be able to afford their products. So we've actually talked about this with a ton of retail options at FreedomPay. So our retail partners being able to leverage that technology, but it's actually starting to be asked in food and beverage. Do you support this type of experience? So it's kind of interesting to see those trends in, retail, where I think it makes sense, and moving it over to food and beverage. I'm like, I guess I can see that, and the trend kind of going there and being able to offer the experience or the item for someone who might not have thought they could have done that in the beginning is going to be super beneficial. And I can't wait to kind of see where that goes, because I don't think that that's the end at all. I think that we have a lot of growth in the buy now, pay later space for sure.
What else would you like to highlight for our FSI members?
Understanding that there's options outside of traditional payments. And by traditional payments, I mean, major card brands or processing and things like that. I saw an announcement today that Google is looking to create their own type of payment network in which it's not traditional Google Pay in browser. It's more of a Venmo type payment in which it's totally separate on, the rails of the credit card companies. So it would be essentially more like a banking function, where we're seeing more banks try to get into play here versus the card brands, and kind of just exploring all of those options and being able, as number one, a merchant, to recognize there's ways that you can save money on transactions, because it is a significant cost to accepting payments as credit cards. It's not cheap. Being in the payment gateway space, we make pennies on a transaction, but acquirers, they make a large percentage of the transaction, and that's revenue that could be going to the large merchants and it could be going to the small merchants. But I think that, as we kind of think as fintech leaders, on multiple sides, we are aligned fully on what we do. It's separate, but I think on both sides, just recognizing that there's a lot of room for innovation. I think there's going to be some great things that are coming. And I'm really excited to kind of see how it all unravels.
Absolutely. You're certainly on the front line there for sure. Courtney, thank you so much for taking the time. It's really been a pleasure. I hope we get a chance to meet in person someday.
Yes, me too. I really appreciate you taking the time, Lance, and it was great talking to you, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.